Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome back to my course at the Industrial Biotechnology. In the last two lectures, I covered the ethanol fermentation process. Now I am going to discuss the brewing industry. And brewing industry that deals with the beer making industry, largely used throughout the world. So we'll give some detailed information on that. Now, if you look at the brewing is the product of malt beverage, is the name given by the combined process of preparing the beverage from infusion of grains that have undergone sprouting, what we call malting, and the fermenting the sugary solution to begin to grow by yeast, whereby a portion of carbohydrate is changed to alcohol and carbon dioxide. That means what happens in case of brewing industry, that we use some kind of grain, because we use mostly the barley grains, and these barley grains undergo some kind of malting process, and during the malting process it produces hydrolytic enzymes, and after that this is used, this is dry, then we make it a powder, and then we make it dough. Dough means with the help of water we make a semi-solid mixture and keep at different temperature for hydrolysis of starch and the proteins. And then we get the soluble glucose. This soluble glucose, when used by the yeast cells, it produces the alcohol. Now probably this has been invented by the Egyptian, and more than 130 billion liters of beer sold per year, producing total global revenue of 294.5 millions, that is the dollar in 2006. This is a little old figure, but now it has been increased to a great extent. Now, there are different examples of malt beverage that is available in the market. The mostly we have 4 different malt beverage. One is called lager, another is ale. Lager is largely used in India. Then we have ale, which is little the darker color, and porter is more darker, you can see, and there is a stout. So there the different types of beer has been marketed, and mostly throughout the world we have these 2 type of beer mostly used by the people. One is called lager, another we call ale beer. Now question comes, what are the ingredients that's required for the beer producing industries? One is water, then starch source, yeast, and hops and other additives. Now here I want to stress, among all the alcoholic beverages, the beer is considered as the energy rich drink. And why it is the energy rich drink? The reason is that it not only contains alcohol, but it contains significant amount of proteins. So that is why, because no other drinks contain that much of protein. This protein comes from the barley grains. So this is that is why it is called as the energy rich drink. Now, if you look at this, the ingredients that is used in the beer making industry, that starch is we have starch source, and starch source might be the barley grains as such. Maybe we use some malt adjunct. Malt adjunct is nothing but maybe rice starch, wheat starch, that is used as a malt, as a source of starchy material. And why it is used? This is used for diluting the color. You have seen that color of the beer is different. We suppose we want light color beer, then we shall have to use some malt adjunct. Then yeast we use for the fermentation, and hops. This is very important ingredients, as the beer industry, brewing industry is concerned, because it gives the typical flavor and aroma of the beer. So we have, this is barley grains, then hops, the waters and yeast. This gives the beer. Now question what should be here there is a very important issue that we have. What should be the quality of water in the brewing industry? Not only in brewing industry, what should be the quality of water in different fermentation industries? And whether we should go for distilled water or demineralized water, or we should use the tap water, because if you use the demineralized water, naturally it will be costly, and if we use the distilled water, it is more costly. If we use tap water, it might be cheaper. Now, what is the basis of using this the water in the fermentation industry? Now, when we use any kind of water source, first we should have some kind of analysis of the water, where analysis on the basis of it mostly contains some kind of minerals, and we shall have to find out what are the minerals present in the particular this water, and whether those minerals having some kind of effect on that fermentation process. I can give a typical example, particularly if you talk about the that beer making industry, that I told you that one important step is the saccharification of the starch. Now, in the saccharification of starch, alpha amylase plays very important role for the degradation of the starch to glucose. Now, this alpha amylase, it has been found in presence of calcium ion, the thermostability of alpha amylase that increases to a great extent. So, if your water contains some kind of calcium ion, this is added advantage of that. Similarly, we shall have to find out the presence of some minerals, whether it impart any kind of color to the beer, or it has some other effect on the beer. So, if you find this is not affecting the quality of the beer, then we can go for using the tap water. Otherwise, we shall have to think for using the demineralized water for a typical fermentation process. I can here let me take the example of the citric acid industry. And citric acid industry, we observed that iron and manganese ion that plays a vital role, and that if those are present there, the productivity of citric acid reduces drastically. So, there is the water should not contain any trace amount of iron and manganese. If it is present there, then the productivity will decrease to a great extent. This is how we can determine the water quality of the fermentation industries. So, here we have taken the example of Dublin as a hard water is well suited for the making of stout, because they have observed they contain some kind of minerals which is useful for this particular process. The hardness of water, calcium and magnesium can affect the yeast metabolism of growth. That also you have to work out. Now, bicarbonate can affect the pH of the fermentation. The starch source, we have beer provide the fermentable material. It is a key determinant of strength and flavor of the beer. The most common starch source used is the malted barley, and other starch source as the millet, sorghum, cassava. I told you that we use rice starch, also wheat starch. Also, we use the proportion of the yeast starch in the beer recipe collectively called the grain bill. So, this is different starch source we use. Now, the ingredients of this one of the important ingredients that required in the beer brewing industry is the yeast, kind of yeast cell that is used, and two type of yeast cell largely used for the beer making industry. One is called Saccharomyces cerevisiae, and you can see that the special characteristics of these yeast cells is the budding. This is the organism, and this is the budding. And I can share my experience with the alcohol industry that the major contaminants of alcohol industry is that the kind of the contamination of wild yeast cells. Now, if there is a, this is we usually use the industrial strain. Now, if the wild yeast strain that you can easily find out, suppose this is the industrial strain, and this is the wild yeast. So, if you do the microscopic study, morphological study under the microscope, you can easily visualize that whether your strain is contaminated with foreign that other wild microorganisms, that is undesirable. So and this is the budding is very important for the yeast. This is how you can easily identify the presence of the yeast in this sample. And Saccharomyces culvergensis that is used now. Saccharomyces cerevisiae is considered as the top fermenting yeast, and Saccharomyces culvergensis is used for the bottom fermenting yeast. Now, here because I told you two type of beer is largely in the market. One is called alley beer and there is the lager beer. So, for alley beer production we use the Saccharomyces cerevisiae, Saccharomyces culvergensis, and for the alley beer we use Saccharomyces cerevisiae, and lager beer we use the Saccharomyces culvergensis. Now, during this fermentation process, I mentioned that one important ingredient is the hops of the flower. They also called seed cones. This is the hope plant. Biologically, it is called Humulus lupulus. That is the name of the biological name of this, and it looks like this. You can see how it looks. This is usually available in the hilly places. They are used primarily as a flavoring and stability agent of the brewing industry. Hops contributes the beer. I can tell you that three different ingredients mostly one is tannin, resin, and the essential oils that contributes different properties to the beer. I can give the example that in case in presence of tannin, if you look at this tannin, it causes the precipitation of the unstable protein, because you know that in the brewing industry one important factor is the chill proof beer. What is chill proof beer? I already mentioned that beer contains good amount of protein. And protein, as you know, at high temperature and low temperature, it precipitated out. So, usually beer served under chill conditions. Now, in the chill conditions, if the protein precipitated out, then what will happen? The beer will look hazy. That is undesirable. So, it should be perfectly clear. To make it perfectly clear, what you have to do? You have to precipitate out the bigger protein molecules, because smaller protein molecule may not be precipitated at low temperature, but bigger protein molecule will precipitate out at the low temperature. So, you have to separate out. So, tannin, because one process that we boil the liquid with the hops, and during the boiling process that the tannin mix with the protein and it will precipitate out the protein molecule. So, this is the role of tannin. And in case of resin is because one typical characteristics of the beer that it has the bitterness in the beer. And this bitterness of the beer, why it is there? There is the presence of resin, because it contributes bitterness and biological stability of malt beverage, because this is also has the antimicrobial property. So, resin, that is the bitterness of the beer that comes from the resin. Another is the essential oil. This is prevent the mold foam, but is the main effect of this the essential oil is the aroma. Because beer has a typical flavor, and this flavor comes from this the essential oils. So hops contribute a typical flavor and typical taste in the beer. The hop is very important ingredients in the beer making industries. The major steps involved in the beer making industry is the malting. First is the malting of barley grains. Now, what do you mean by malting of barley grains? Malting of barley grains means barley grains. What you do, we soak it for overnight or 2 days to weight the barley grains, and after that we drain the water and take the weighted barley grains out and put it in a humidified room under aerobic condition, and then that germination of the barley grains take place. That you will find kind of shoot formations in the barley grains. And then during this process, due to germination process, different hydrolytic enzyme that produce inside the barley grains, and these are mostly the amylases and the proteases, and this is very much so. Malted food actually that is usually recommended for the patient as well as for the school children. Particularly during the examination, all the children are under tension. The doctor usually prescribe that malted food. The reason is that since it has the hydrolytic enzyme, this is easy for digestion. So because during this tension, that that our system doesn't secrete the enzymes as per the requirement. So we might be having the digestion problem, and that is why it is prescribed that for the patients as well as for the school children during examination, this malted food. So malting is a process through which we can produce this hydrolytic enzymes. The second is the mashing process. Mashing process is after malting process we dry these barley grains. When we dry these barley grains, and barley grains contains good amount of starch and protein. Also during this malting process is produce hydrolytic enzyme. So when we dry it, then what will happen? This hydrolytic enzyme will mix with starch and protein molecules. This is mixed with that, and then we make a dough, because we mix with water, and at different temperatures saccharification and that degradation of protein, but that will proteolysis will take place, and during this degradation process we get the soluble sugar, soluble protein that we can get in the liquid forms. So this is the mashing process, that of the solubilization of the insoluble material to soluble material. Then another step, what we call the boiling away hops. I told you hops give the typical characteristics of the beer. So boiling of the hop is a very important steps of the beer making industries. Then we have fermentation process. After this we cool this material and what you call oat, and this oat we take it in the fermentation process, where in presence of yeast cell we produce the alcohol, and this then it passes through the maturation process. Now this is very interesting, that what is the importance of the maturation process? Maturation process, because we have ethanol in this system, we have produced ethanol, but if you look at our Embden-Mayer pathway, then we will find that in the metabolic pathway a lot of acid formations are there. And these acid might be present very low level in the beer, and due to the presence of this acid, it gives some kind of harsh flavor. So maturation is very important. The reason is that if you keep it for some time, then the alcohol and acid will get the opportunity to combine with each other and form the esters. As soon as the ester formation is there, then harsh flavor that will go and sweet flavor will develop. So maturation process is very important steps for both for the beer industry and the wine making industry. This is very important, and there we preferred it produces some esters. The ethanol, a part of the ethanol combined with the part of acid to form the esters, and you might be knowing that the esters are responsible for developing different flavor. So this is what is actually happening during the maturation process. Now finishing operation means after that the beer can be used for the two type of beer we have. One is that we shall have to long time consumption and short time consumption. So if we have immediate demand in the market, Then what we use, that we add some kind of preservative in it, and we do the carbonization, and we put it in the it is marketed either in the form of can, or in the bottle, or in the barrels. So wherever is you do it and send it in the market. But when you long time consumption, that it is passes through the pasteurization process. And pasteurization, I told you, is the process through which we kill the germs, because that is the pasteurization process is used for the long time use of the beer, because if beer can be used for the longer period of time, we go for pasteurization process. Now this is the kind of flow that is process flow diagram of this process, and I told you this is the first is the malting process, where germination of the barley grains take place. After germination of barley grains, we dry it, and then we pass it through the milling machine. What is the purpose of milling machine? To make it powder form. And after making it powder, we take it we pass it through a meshing. What I told you in the meshing, that we mix with water, and this is meshing is usually take place at different temperature. At lower temperature, the proteolysis take place, and higher temperature, saccharification take place. So we have two type of mashing process. We have infusion and decoction, that I shall discuss in the later. And then that main purpose, that insoluble material will be solubilized here, and then we take the semi-solid mixture in this here, where there is a loitering process. Loitering process is nothing but, here we have a stainless steel perforated disc, and there we press together, and when we press, then soluble material, soluble material comes out, and the insoluble material remain. That insoluble material can be used as a good fodder, and the soluble material we take it out, and here we take it in the kettle. In this kettle, that we adjust the sugar concentration as per our alcohol requirement in the beer, because I told you beer contains, the alcohol concentration of the beer varies from 4 to maybe 8%. So as per, if we have already seen in the stoichiometry, that 1 gram glucose approximately produce 0.5 gram of the ethanol. So if we want to produce 4% ethanol concentration in the fermentation broth, we shall have to use 8% sugar. So 8% sugar you have to use. So if after this process, if you find the sugar concentration here is less than 8%, then you have to adjust by the sugar concentration by adding some syrup here. So if you want higher sugar concentration, you have to use more syrup. Then you add here this what you call hops, that and boil it, and during the boiling process, that I told you, that tannin, resin, and the essential oil, they participate in the reaction and keep the typical flavor, and then we cool it down. And then we polish it, we filter it out, and then we cool it down, then take it in the fermenter. And I told you two type of yeast cells are used. One is Saccharomyces cerevisiae, Saccharomyces culvergensis, as well, because if you use the lager beer, we use the Saccharomyces culvergensis here, and then we pass it through the maturation process. Maturation process is nothing but is the storage vessel at low temperature. We keep it for a longer period of time, just to show that free acid and alcohol, they form the ester, and harshness of the beer can be removed. Then we can filter it off. And not only this, during maturing process, also we add some kind of proteolytic enzyme purposefully. Why we add some proteolytic enzymes? To degrade the bigger protein molecule in the small protein molecule, so that we can have the chill-proof beer. So we can add that, and then we pass it through the filtering system to remove the suspended material. Then we package it either in the form of can, or in the bottles, or in the barrels. This we can do this. Then we load it in the truck and send it to the market. This is another schematic diagram of this process, that how is this is in practice in the beer making industry. This is the barley grains. You can see the barley grains. It is similar to the wheat grain. Only the difference is that it is little bit longer and a little bit thinner, and wheat grain will be smaller and it will little bit thicker. That as compared to that, and then as I told you, first process is steeping. Steeping means soaking. You soak this builder. When you soak with water, then this is dry, but when you soak, this will be wetted. This surface will be wetted. Then we put it in, keep it in a float, because where we maintain the humid conditions, and we pass little bit of air. And during these conditions, the sprouting take place. You can see that kind of shoot formation take place here, when the ascospores here in this ascospores, the hydrolytic enzyme formation will take place. And then after that we dry it. We dry it to stop this germination process, and then then we pass it through the milling machine. In this milling machine, we convert this to the powder form, and this powder then we take it to the mass mixer. Mass mixer is nothing but, I told you, is mixed with water, and it may have the semi-solid mixture, and at different temperature for proteolysis as well as saccharification both take place. And the soluble material we take it to the total material we take it to the Loiter tone, where we have the perforated disc that where we press it, and so that soluble thing can be separated out from the insoluble thing. Soluble thing we consider as the spent grain. It can be, you can take it back and reuse this, or it can be used as a good fodder. Then this is we take it in a kettle. In the kettles we take the hops. This we boil this with hops, so that resins, tannin and essential oils, all that comes in the soluble form. Then we have the separator here. We take the insoluble material from the soluble material. Then we pass it through the heat exchanger to cool it down, and then we take it in the fermenter. We add some yeast here. Then from this we can pass it through we separate the yeast cells. Then we can maturation process. In this maturation process, with the kind of settling tank, where we settle your clarification of the beer will take place. Your beer will be, and and not only that acid and alcohol, they will form the esters, and whatever remaining that cells are there, that can be separated with the help of this filtration unit. Again, you pass through the plate exchanger. Then we do the carbonation process, that is not showing here, and then we put it in the different containers. We can bottle like this. So this gives you some preliminary ideas how the beer production take place, because I told you that beer we have 4 different steps, major steps involved in the beer making industry. One is called malting, another is mashing, the hopping and the fermentation. Then it also we have another important step for the maturation process, where the harshness of the beer will be removed. And major steps involved in this beer making process is the malting and hopping process. Malting process is the barley grains. We produce some kind of hydrolytic enzyme. This hydrolytic enzyme helps for the degradation of the starchy and the protein to the soluble form. And then in the hopping process, it helps you to develop the typical aroma and typical taste of beer. And then then we pass it through the fermentation process and maturation process, and we get the carbonated this. Now one typical things I want to aspects of beer I want to mention that in case of, though it is a carbonated drinks, when you open any beer bottle, you will find a lot of foam formation, and this foam will remain in the bottle for quite some time. It will not subside so easily. But if you look at any soft drinks bottle that also contain carbon dioxide, as soon as you open this bottle, you will find a lot of emergence of carbon dioxide will take place, but that will immediately subside. The reason for that is that I told you this foam formation is mainly due to the protein and the carbon dioxide present in the beer, and this is the protein that helps you for the permanent foam that of the beer. That is why the foam remain in the beer for quite some time. Thank you very much.